Oh, hello good people. Hi, it's Jason with Green Country Agri-Forestry. I'm glad you stopped by. Remember a couple of months ago, whenever I brought this particular paint can out and I showed you the bells that I had stored inside of it, and I said I actually had this can for a different purpose? Well, today is the day we're going to show you what to do with an empty paint can. And it's just an empty paint can. There's nothing at all in it, never had paint in it, so it is clean and pristine. It doesn't have any lining on the inside. There's no chemicals in there. And that's important because today I'm going to show you how to make charcoal. Not just the kind of charcoal that you would use to cook outside with or to use for biochar, but specifically charcoal that you might use for medicinal purposes. So come on in close. I'll show you how we set this up, how we get our wood prepared and ready to use to make charcoal, and then I'll show you the actual process of making charcoal. Come on up. Okay, so medicinal charcoal and why you'd want to use a medicinal charcoal. Well, medicinal charcoal has a couple of different purposes. One is, of course, stopping diarrhea. If you've got the galloping case of the trots, taking a little bit of charcoal, about a teaspoon in a glass of water, can help stop you up. And that's really great in case you wind up in a situation where you can't get your hands on bismuth sulfate or Pepto-Bismol. Another purpose of medicinal charcoal is to treat accidental intoxication, accidental poisonings, particularly for you people that are raising livestock. I spoke at some length earlier this year, I think it was this year, about blister beetles and the blister beetle grasshopper cycle and the danger posed by this particular insect if it winds up in your fodder. It only takes as few as 5 blister beetles to kill a horse. Now, if you find that your animal has been eating contaminated fodder, you can contact the vet and the vet will get to you as quickly as possible. But in order to improve your livestock's chances of survival, have a hose ready, the type of tube that you can lube up and run down through the nostril, and of course your charcoal prepared. You make it in a slurry, put it in a funnel, pour it down through the hose, through the tube, into the stomach of your horse or your goat or your cow or whatever animal has consumed the contaminated feed, and that charcoal will absorb the toxins. And although the vet's going to have to do some other work to thoroughly treat the animal, that could be all the difference you need between keeping the animal alive just long enough for the vet to do the rest of the treatment or losing the animal. So of course, yeah, this works on humans too, but since I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not allowed to tell you that, but use your own common sense, guys. All right, so down here we've got our paint can, and I've got a rather large nail. This one's a bit larger than ordinarily I would use, but I just happen to have it, so I figure I'll use it. A 16-penny nail is perfectly large enough. Okay, so we've got our nail here, and we've got our can right here with the lid, of course. I'm going to go ahead and take the lid, pull it off of the can. You don't want to beat it on top of the can, which is empty and clean. No lining in the can. You can stop by a hardware store and pick one of these up. Just a plain old empty paint can, no paint ever in it. Hi, kitty. How you doing? All right, let me grab my thingamajig here. All right, so I've got a board here that I'm going to use to stop the nail as it goes through. All right, so here we go. I'll explain what everything is for in a moment. Alright, so the best wood for you to use to make your charcoal with for medicinal purposes or other non-biochar or cooking applications is alder, willow, and hazelnut. Oddly enough, hazelnut makes good charcoal. So you want to find more or less straight pieces, not a whole lot of knots. This is actually a green stick, but just wanted to use this for demonstration purposes. While you still have living wood that you've just cut, you're cutting out wands, you go ahead and strip your leaves off, and then you take that bark from the outside, you peel it off. So you peel off your bark. And of course, if it's alder, what do we know about alder? Well, we know alder is a nitrogen fixer. So this foliage and the bark that I'm stripping off right now, all of this, excellent compost, folks. Excellent compost, loaded with nitrogen. Your garden will love it. You just break that up. You can mulch with it as a green mulch. It'll fertilize as it breaks down, and that's good. Also, since this is Alnus glutinosa, the inner bark here can be used to make a powder for that gelatinous coating on the inside of the inner bark. You make a powder out of that that goes into homemade toothpaste. Mix that up with a little bit of wintergreen and you're good to go. Alright, so I've just got a stick here of alder that I've stripped all the bark off of, and ideally, get the bark off of here. You don't want any bark at all. Alright, so you just take this after you strip the bark off and let it season and cure for a bit. And you don't want the pieces too incredibly large. Smaller pieces are going to turn to charcoal quicker and more thoroughly than big pieces, because we have to heat the wood all the way through. So you want smaller pieces. If you've got large chunks, you can split them. And you just keep on going until you have the can filled with as many of those little sticks as you want. And you just pack them on in. Okay, once we've got our wood lit and we're going to go ahead and take our paint can with the wood in it. There it is, with the wood in it, all those little tiny pieces. Of course, you can pack this all the way to the top if you want to. And we just make sure the lid is on, so it's not going to be leaking air. All right, so there we go, the lid on good. We remove the nail, and we put this down here on the fire, and we let it sit there. Hang on a second, how are we going to grab that bale later on whenever it's time to pull it out of the fire? You missed an important step, didn't you? Well, hang on, I'll show you. Spare piece of scrap metal right here. Now you might have something like this in your fireplace tools that you could use. Well, this works just fine. You just reach over there, grab that bale, pull it on up. I've used this to make charcoal before, incidentally. Now we're just going to watch that hole at the top and wait for it to start to smoke. The heat from the fire underneath is heating up the wood inside, and it will start to release flammable vapors, which will emerge from that hole in the top. So we're just watching that for smoke. Staying it burn for a minute. Alright, see how the flames will the smoke will catch fire there? That's good. The smoke catching fire is still flammable. Oh, there we go. There we go. We got started. Ah, isn't that cool? Alright, come on now, people. Tell me that's not cool right there. So the principle of using wood gas as a fuel source can be easily demonstrated here. We've heated the wood up to the point where it's releasing flammable vapors, right? So we could use those inside of an internal combustion engine and actually use that to do work as a fuel source. Now all we have to do is wait for that fire to finally go out there. Whenever it goes out, we know that we've stopped producing flammable vapors, and there we go. That's about it, folks. We got a little bit of smoke coming out, but not enough to sustain combustion. That means we're pretty close to being done. I'm going to let it go just a little bit longer, and then we'll drop the nail in, stop the airflow, and then pull the can off and let it cool off. Alright, it's barely a trickle of smoke now. Just go ahead and put that nail in. Use that, pull it up. This is going to be really hot, so we're going to put it someplace where it's not going to catch anything on fire. Alright, as the day is getting along, we see that our wood fire that we had inside of the cooker is burning down to a nice wood ash. We're going to let that go ahead and finish turning into ash, because I have a need for those ashes for an upcoming project. hopefully we'll be able to get it done before the 15th. We're only going to go ahead and let that burn down and make ash. But have a look over here. There's our can. We've had it sitting out here for a while. It feels cool to the touch, which means it's safe to remove the nail. Once you get the lid pried off, inside we have these little twigs, just like that. And if we do the job correctly, they crumble easily and crush up into charcoal. And you crush that down into a powder. There you go. Yeah, easily it crumbles up. Nice powdered. Look at that. Oh, you just rub it between your fingers. It just crumbles apart. Nice powdered charcoal. A larger piece. And you see how that bark is there on the outside? You don't want that bark with your medicinal grade charcoal because it's a different density of material. Alright. So just to take that little bit there. And look at this. Look at this. Watch this. Just pinch it between my fingers. And it crumbles to dust. There we go. Anyway, now that I got my hands all dirty, that's how you make medicinal grade charcoal, folks. Alright, good people, now that I'm all dirty, it's time for me to go wash up again. Hey, I hope you found this video informative or entertaining, maybe a little bit of both. And if you did, well, you know what to do, and I'll catch you next time.